It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Laura.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, cover breaking news, culture, medic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Guys, welcome to the Simply Bitcoin live stream, the most watched daily Bitcoin only live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. We have a lot to talk about today. Specifically, this is a subject that when we cover, you guys absolutely love it. So we're going to cover it again. How much Bitcoin do you need to retire by the year 2030? So we have all these different resources and little, tools that you guys can apply. You guys could do yourself at home and apply it and, see how it works for your financial situation. But, TLDR is just keep stacking those sats and, it's going up forever, Laura. So really excited about today's episode. This is apparently a topic that you guys like to talk about, that you guys like that when we cover it. And also we're going to introduce a little bit of a different variable, because this is actually something that popped up on my radar recently. And what I got to say about any model, I forget what the famous saying is, that like every model ends up being wrong, but some could be useful, something along those lines, is the Bitcoin power law. That seems to be the one that is making the rounds lately. But it's really interesting. Like, it's really interesting in terms of like, it seems like it's been accurate so far, but I mean, again, every model is accurate until, the next cycle happens and then it's not accurate. So I would take it with a grain of salt, but it is very interesting. And the power law aspect of it is interesting as well, because apparently a power law isn't just applied to Bitcoin. It's applied to multiple different things, and apparently it apply, like you can see it in nature. You can see it on a multitude of different things, and you can apply the power law to it, and it maps out what's going to happen. So in a way, it's weird, because why would you be able to apply that to a financial asset? Well, I mean, Bitcoin's different. And I think it's different in the sense that, there's 21 million. It's super mathematical. And it's tied to, it's anchored to energy. So could it be? I don't know. No one knows, but I think it's fun to talk about. It's fun to bring up. We also have the creator or basically the person that discovered the power law as it applies to Bitcoin, Giovanni Santostasi. We have him actually coming on Simply Bitcoin IRL to further explore the topic. So really excited to start talking about Bitcoin's power law. We've never done so on Simply Bitcoin. Also, in the numbers section, we have three different topics from three notable different Bitcoiners that are really interesting topics. And again, it's just little historic milestones and little historical examples of the primary theme of this show, which is the separation of money and state. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a great show. And of course, we have a very special guest today. We have Vendetta from Coinway. Vendetta always drops the hot fire when he comes on Simply Bitcoin. So we're really, really excited for him to be on the show today. How you doing, Vendetta?
Fantastic, bro. How you doing?
Good, man. It's another day making Bitcoin content. Can't complain. Drinking my electrolytes. I was getting these crazy headaches, and then when it was my dad or someone who told me, he's like, and I was like taking Advil. He's like, no, dude, you just got to drink your electrolytes. And now, like, if you just drink electrolytes, you don't get headaches. It's like a total life hack. So if anyone has headaches, just drink electrolytes.
Yeah, you got to stay hydrated. You talk all day trying to convince people about the importance of self-custody. Your mouth goes dry 100 times.
Right? Exactly. All right. And I also want to bring up my legendary co-host, who is always optimistic, the one, the only, the Optimist Fields. How you doing, Opti?
Well, to be honest, Nico, I'm still reeling from OptiGate 2024, hashtag free Opti. No, I'm just trolling. It's beautiful, man. I couldn't complain. Life's great. Blocks are coming in. We're on the Bitcoin standard. We get to create in paradise. It's absolutely beautiful being a Bitcoiner. But guys, hey, show Nico some love. Take it easy on him in the chat.
Is it going ham?
They're trolling a little bit. But I did kind of reflect yesterday a little, Nico. The Overlord. I got the call from the Overlords yesterday, and had to reflect on my rhetoric. No. Actually, I was reading a book, and it really made me think. What is our goal here at Simply Bitcoin? And our goal is to get as many people to hold Bitcoin as possible. And with that comes, how do we spread the Bitcoin message more effectively? And part of that is I think effectiveness in how we talk about Bitcoin can take many forms. You can effectively troll people. You can effectively speak to the choir, or you try to do what we do here and be as the most effective we can to break out of the Bitcoin echo chamber. And so that's what we're trying to do. And hey, I sometimes get a little wild and crazy, but that's why I had to wear my shirt today. I had to wear my epic shirt that I love completely, because I think what we're doing here and what most people don't understand is that Bitcoin supersedes all modern politics and supersedes everything that we know to be true right now. And it really, I think, gets to the core of how do we achieve a higher culture, a higher society? And that all starts with how we say all the time, fix the money, fix the world. And so we are always trying to better our rhetoric, tweak our message so that more people understand what Bitcoin is. So guys, be easy on Nico. We're still perfecting our messaging so that more people understand why we Bitcoin. I mean, me and V for Vendetta were talking before the show. It's amazing how people still don't understand Bitcoin. It's so obvious to us, but there's still a lot of mental hurdles. There's still a lot of education out there that we need to not only improve on, but just get the message out there. So guys, we still got a long way to go, but hey, Bitcoin's working. It's beautiful. I love being a Bitcoiner. I love stacking sats. I love talking about Bitcoin and thinking towards the future instead of looking backwards and being nihilistic and sad and in fear. It's man, there's so much hope if you understand what is actually going on in the world. And that's what we try to do. Anyways, rant over, Nico.
Wow, bro. Optimus Fields.
Hey, you can tell I read a book for once.
And just to kind of address a lot of the comments, guys, I think a lot of you, if you guys, there's a method to the madness. We want to be as inclusive as possible because we want to get as many people on our side of the football before the hammer falls. That's the reality. So there's a certain way to do that. And when you start saying certain things in a certain way, what it does is that it excludes people. And we want to be inclusive as possible on this show because we believe that you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. So instead of attacking people head on in terms of their politics, all you got to do is you got them to, if you get them to take the orange pill, Bitcoin does many things. So that's kind of been the philosophy at Simply. But at the same time, I hear you guys in the chat and yeah.
Guys,
free Opti 2024.
Hashtag free Opti. Blink twice if I'm being held hostage right now. The overlords are calling my phone as we speak. No, I'm trolling, guys. I'm trolling. All right.
All right, guys.
It's Friday. I got a meme review too. Let's go.
All right, let's start the show. We have a lot to talk about today. Let's check it out. Here we go. But before we do that, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to the Bitcoin company that powers the show. Our lead sponsor, of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. It is a self-custody by default platform, future-proof your money. What does that mean? What does self-custody by default mean? That means that you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody. As soon as the funds clear, it literally sends the Bitcoin from Bitcoin Well straight to your Bitcoin address. You don't have an option to just leave it on the exchange, right? Which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state, because after all, self-custody is the revolution. So guys, go to coinwell.com today. You can use bitcoinwell.com/simply if you prefer, and you can get started. All you got to do is you put in your email, you do the verification process. There's a transparent 1% fee. It's a Bitcoin only platform, and like we said, it's completely non-custodial. I believe it's the first Bitcoin on-ramp in the US to be non-custodial by default. So guys, support self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramps. Visit bitcoinwell.com/simply today. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. Guys, do you want to put yourself in a situation where your grandchildren absolutely hate you? No, you don't want to do that because you want to pass them your generational wealth, right? And the way that you do that is by properly securing your Bitcoin seed words, right? And one of the best ways to do that is to stamp them into freaking titanium, one of the strongest metals on planet Earth. So what you could do is you could scan the QR code. It'll take you directly to the Stamp Seed website. You can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the site. Guys, I'm joking a little bit, with the grandchildren joke. Forgive my dad jokes. I just became a dad. But it's probably not a good idea to write down your seed words on paper, especially for the long term. So get yourself a Stamp Seed seed phrase storage kit. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 60,810. Block height 842,874. Sats per dollar 1,644. Market cap 1.2 trillion. Bitcoin priced in gold 25.9 ounces. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 7.4%. Percentage issued 93.79%. Decline from all-time high 17.6%. Forward monetary inflation 0.85%. Realized monetary inflation 1.68%. Completely taking fiat currencies to absolute school. And that inflation number is going to keep getting cut in half forever. Anyways, I have 3 different tweets covering 3 completely different things, but I think they're equally as important. So first tweet is coming from Patrick Webb. It says the IRS will now target individuals who threaten the US government's ability to govern. A vague new criterion for criminal investigation. This includes protesters of foreign relations under the guise of national security, according to its updated operating manual. It goes on to say, according to the IRS, national security refers to the national defense of foreign relations of the U.S. and includes within a treasury context U.S. economic vitality, global competitiveness, market sensitivity, and tracking terrorist assets/financial crimes. Meaning the IRS is expanding its scope to include a broad range of individuals, potentially including Americans protesting their government's foreign relations to day traders and its investigative efforts. Now, what's really interesting about this is at the very top, like, who defines what the Treasury defines? What is market sensitivity? What if they say that Bitcoin is a threat to the market sensitivity? We've heard this a million times in the Binance DOJ press conference. They literally mentioned the word terrorism and like at least 30 times. And that's literally like my face turned white when I heard it. And I was like, holy shit, they're going to go after self-custody. Fast forward a couple months, here's where we are. So like the fact that they, that this is even a thing, that they can get the tax collectors, which they recently increased, to just go after certain political opponents is crazy. But at the same time, should not surprise you. Once again, predicted by the book, the sovereign individual. So that's topic number one. Do you guys have any thoughts on this before I move on to the next tweet?
I mean, just super simply, like rewriting laws to clamp down on capital is not only absolutely terrifying, but completely not surprised by this. We know what happens when empires start to crumble, the institutions try to fight back.
And then what's your take on this, Vendetta?
Yeah, I completely agree, man. This is like a wounded animal stuck in a corner and not knowing what to do. And so it's trying to do anything possible just to win when, you know, ultimately defeat is staring them in the face. That's, you know, that's basically what I see.
Did I just hear you say we were winning?
Yeah, of course we're winning. Why would we get this type of reaction if we weren't winning? if nothing what we were doing, you know, amounted to much, none of this stuff, we'd never be reading any of this stuff. It's because Bitcoin is dominating. It's because self-custody is on the rise. It's because people are aware of what's really going on and understanding the truth that all these scare tactics, all these rabid actions are coming about. This is definitely expected, but this is the sign of a losing power. You know, whenever you have to resort to tyranny and corruption, you've already lost the game. You know, you attract more power, you know, with innovation and incentives rather than, you know, these destructive techniques. You know, I don't see this ending well in any way, shape, or form.
I completely agree.
Hey, Nico, before we move on, I do want to just reiterate what V for Vendetta just said. It's like, because we are so effective and what we do actually has a meaningful impact on what things are doing, that's why they are attacking us.
100%.
Keep going.
100%. Guys, there's about 800 watching you, or 800 that'd be bad. There's about 800 of you guys watching between YouTube.
I mean, that's not a lie either.
Between YouTube, Rumble, and X. So if you guys are enjoying the show, it really helps with the algos if you guys smash the like button. So if you're watching us on Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, smash the like button. Helps push the orange signal. Second tweet is by Brad Mills. He goes on to say, a middle-class factory worker wants to wire $45,000 of his own hard-earned money to buy Bitcoin in Canada, and RBC is straight up blocking his exit. They do not want you taking your money out of the banking system. Get out while you can. Canadians need more Bitcoin, need Bitcoin more than ever. If anyone wants to write a story about this, it's a saga going on for 2.5 weeks now. He's been trying to buy Bitcoin since April 20th. The bank, quote unquote, lost his money in the wire system for a week, trying to frustrate him out of buying BTC at every step. By the way, Opti and I recently just went through this. We, as a company, we're trying to get paid from someone located in Canada. And guess what? It was an absolute effing nightmare. You know what was very easy to do? Receive Bitcoin. Also, Adam O'Brien, CEO and founder of Bitcoin Well, his wife just got debanked, right? So, and again, I'm sure it's because she is associated with her husband who has been debanked. And why has he been debanked? Maybe it's the fact that he's the CEO of a Bitcoin on-ramp, right? So what are your guys' takes on this?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I say it all the time, Canada is just absolutely shooting themselves in the kneecaps. And again, Canada is always a test bed for really bad ideas that will eventually get exported out into every other Western country. So I'm not surprised at all. But I mean, I think the biggest news, and I really like Adam O'Brien's tweet on and him getting debanked. He's like, my wife that's simply just a housewife is terrifying the bank so much because of her last name, and now she's debanked. It's absolutely ludicrous and insane.
100%. What's your take on this, Vendetta?
Well, again, it's confirming the Bitcoin truth. I mean, Bitcoin was created to put an end to theft, and by doing all these things, by restricting access to your own money, it's just confirming that it's shedding light on the truth that Bitcoin is encroaching on a thief's bread and butter, and they want to put an end to it as much as possible. And the more people get out of this system, the quicker they sink. So what else do you want them to do? When you're encroaching on their territory, they're going to push back. But ultimately, it's a losing battle because Bitcoin is the best money out there. It's the hardest money out there. The only issue with it is that most people still don't understand anything about it, let alone money in general. But that's coming, as more pain, comes about in the economy and people start affording less and less things, questions are going to be asked, and, advice is going to be given, and ultimately all roads will lead to Bitcoin. Where else are you going to go?
Yeah, 100%. Eventually all roads lead to Bitcoin. All right, last topic of the day, gentlemen, and kind of a follow-up to yesterday's episode. I'm going to make it more obvious today. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question, all right? So crypto really is a bipartisan issue, says Alex Thorne. 20% of likely voters in swing states say it's a, quote, major issue in the 2024 election, and these voters are split on party lean. 45% Republican, 42% Democrat, 13% independent. Now, Alex Thorne asked the question, it's national Dems who have chosen to make it partisan and potentially lose votes over it. Why? Now I'm going to ask the rhetorical question again because you guys didn't get the hint yesterday. Why are Democrats in the federal government, not all of them, against Bitcoin? I don't know why. I'll let you guys come up with why you think that is. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this, bro? Isn't it crazy? Because this is the case that we've been making for so long, right? Is that Bitcoin is all inclusive. It doesn't matter whether you're independent, Republican, or Democrat. Doesn't matter what your specific political ideology is. Bitcoin is for you. Bitcoin helps you. The progressive case, Bitcoin is the most equitable, equal money the world has ever seen. It banks everyone around the world. Doesn't judge you based on where you happen to be born in. The more conservative right-wing talking points is Bitcoin protects your wealth from the insidious taxation of monetary debasement. It also helps you with unconfiscatable wealth, right? So it literally helps everyone. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. But isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that despite the fact that their voter base is super pro-Bitcoin, there are some politicians in Washington, D.C. that come from a certain political party that, don't support Bitcoin? I wonder why that is. Once again, that is a rhetorical question because I guess you guys didn't pick that up yesterday. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this, bro? And love your shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I knew there's a reason to wear this shirt. I really like that tweet by Alex Thorne. I think, obviously I also learned through visuals, so I really enjoyed seeing some charts and stuff. But on that note, I did find another website yesterday, that I found very interesting, and it's standwithcrypto.org/politicians. And I was trolling with my friend yesterday, and it's like, at what point do you go on there and check your local state representatives and start shaming them about their stances on Bitcoin? Because it's becoming very clear. So again, standwithcrypto.org/politicians. Go look them up. And I mean, it's very obvious. It's like, I'm starting to not really like the Bitcoin is for enemies meme, even though it's a good meme. But it's like, you can tell how muddied the water is in regards to people thinking around Bitcoin, because like, it's very obvious if you exchange Bitcoin or the dollar there, like no one out here is like, oh yeah, like of course anyone can hold dollars. Like, yeah, there's no like gatekeep. Well, I mean, there is some gatekeepers to the dollars, but as an average person, you're like, yeah, like if a guy I don't like holds dollars, like it's like, it is what it is. But when it comes to like Bitcoin, there's like this visceral knee jerk reaction. It's like, no, he can't hold Bitcoin. And it's like, look, I'm just a guy here. It's a permissionless network. Anyone can hold Bitcoin if they see the value in Bitcoin. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin, is that there is no overlord telling you that you can't hold Bitcoin. But again, go check out standwithcrypto.org/politician. It's a pretty interesting website. But oh yeah, go on, Nico.
I'm gonna ask an open-ended question because you guys didn't pick it up yesterday. Maybe it could be that Bitcoin exposes incentives, and maybe it could be that anyone who is for a government that has more control over its people, maybe Bitcoin isn't for them. Maybe it could be that. I don't know for sure, but Anyways, I do want to give a shout out to the super chat from Victor Julian. Thank you for the $20. He says, I'm just trying to get rid of some fiat I got laying around the house. It's probably a good idea because that fiat is literally a melting ice cube.
Yeah, give me all your fiat. I'll take it.
Did we get another one? John, appreciate the $20, man. Thank you. You young men will guide the future to a better world, says a boomer. Well, I appreciate that. Vendetta, what's your
I can only hope.
Well, Vendetta, what's your take on this? Because it's interesting because if you ask the populace, they're all pro Bitcoin. They're like, this is great. But it seems like there's a certain subsect of politicians. And it's on both sides of the aisle, one aisle more than the other, that is against their constituents. Let's put it bluntly. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, man. I mean, you based on my story, where I come from, when I've experienced the entire decimation of a country and had my entire life ripped apart, essentially rug pulled. When you go through something like this, your views on life and politicians and governments, takes a 180, and doesn't go back. It exposes the incentives, exactly as you said. There are no good people, in many governments. There are no good people. These are people that have this psychopathic illusion that somehow they own you, that they have the right to dictate how you're going to live your life, how you're going to spend your money, what you're going to eat, etc., etc. And you cannot change this by replacing one piece of shit by another. It's not going to work that way. The only way you're going to fix this is by castrating them at the knees and by removing the power of money from all of them, which obliges them to do what they're supposed to do in the first place, and that's serve the country and serve the people, not their own interests. That is the mold that must be completely broken and never allowed to be put back together.
100%.
So that's what I think about this.
Beautiful, beautifully said. And of course, YouTube, we're talking in a metaphorical sense, right? But yes,
yeah, of course,
100%. And I want to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that, right? This is because just in case people aren't aware, we have a misaligned incentive structure on the political level because politicians are not incentivized to do good by their constituents because of the money printer. So it actually allows them to circumvent their constituents. They don't really care. They're actually incentivized to get as close as humanly possible to the money printer. If you separate money from state, what happens is that the only mechanism of which politicians have to raise revenue is via direct taxation. Good luck winning an election, or good luck raising taxes on people that don't like you, right? Then they become incentivized to actually do good by their constituents. We live in a world where it's misaligned incentive structure, and that's why you're seeing the behavior coming out of Washington, D.C. No one's better than their incentives. They're just following their incentives. That's all they're doing, right? This is why the separation of money and state is so important. Give the power back to the people, right? Give it back to the people. The way you do that is by millions upon millions of individuals all around the world taking back control of their sovereignty, their energy, their wealth. And the way that you do that is by taking Bitcoin into self-custody. If enough of us do that, the system will change. That's why you're seeing the reaction from the politicians, the way that they're reacting. This is why they're going after self-custody. This is why they're demonizing privacy, because you're going after their power base. You're going after their ability to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. You're going after their source of control, their source of power. That is fundamentally what's happening. Remember, when they started to lecture us about the laws that CZ broke, the laws that Samurai broke, remember that no banker went to jail for what happened in 2008, and that messed up a whole lot more of people's, whole lot more lives than what the Samurai guys were doing. So it's a different set of rules for the fiat cartel than for everyone else. And they're trying to send you a message to let you know that, hey guys, we have special privileges. What Bitcoiners are saying is that, no. No one should have the godlike power of creating money for free that another man has to work for. I do want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about the Pleb Party that is happening in Nashville. If you're already going to the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville, you should definitely check out the Pleb Party. It's the day before the conference, Thursday, July 25th. It's a 12-hour open bar from noon to midnight. The last Pleb Party in Miami was sold out 8 days before the conference. So don't wait to get your tickets. I promise you that anyone and your friends or whatever that are going to the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, they will most likely end up at the Pleb Party. The only thing is that you will not be able to buy tickets at the door, and the prices do go up over time. So you want to get your tickets quickly before they sold out completely. So confirmed attendees are Larry Lepard, Preston Pish. The entire Simply crew is going to be there, including Nico, Sophie, Opti, Rustin, James Lavish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, and of course, Tatum Turnup. It's going to be hosted at an amazing venue, a rustic automobile factory from 1910 with brick walls and tons of proof of work atmosphere. There's going to be over 1,000 Bitcoin plebs expected. It's going to be absolutely awesome. You guys don't want to miss the Toxic Happy Hour Bitcoin Pleb Party in Nashville, Tennessee, July 25th. Get your tickets now, scan the QR code, or check the link in the podcast/video description. All right, everybody, let's get to the news. We have a lot to talk about.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, guys, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. Like always, you can literally scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to the Foundation Devices website where you guys can get yourself a Passport hardware wallet. Remember, not your keys, not your cheese. This thing is completely open source. It's incredibly easy to use, and you can pair it up with the Envoy app, and it makes spending cold storage Bitcoin very, very easy. So guys, get yourself a Passport by Foundation Devices. You can scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Everybody, now let's talk about today's topic, which is how much Bitcoin do you need to retire by 2030? Well, it kind of depends. Let's define it. And of course, I asked Google. Google took me to this page, which is how much money you'll need. A common rule of thumb is to have at least 25 times your annual expenses saved. This is based on the 4% withdrawal rate, which is considered a safe rate to avoid depleting your retirement savings too quickly. For example, if your annual expenses are $50,000, you would need 1.25 million, right? So did a little bit of math. And here are the different things. Of course, if you have a higher standard of living, just multiply that, how much money you spend a year, multiply that by 25, and it will give you roughly the dollar amount. And I think here's the life hack, everyone. It gives you roughly the dollar amount of how much you'll need to retire. But the awesome part about Bitcoin is that dollars keep getting cheaper if you're on a Bitcoin standard. So it's not so much a question of if, it's a question of when. So if you make 50K a year, right now, if you retire by 40 specifically, you need 1.25 million. If you need 100K in the year, you need about 2.5 million. If you need 150K a year, you need 3.75 million. Now, if your lifestyle requires 200K a year, you need roughly 5 million. Now, that's a pretty high number for most people. But the awesome part about living on a Bitcoin standard, again, it's not a question of when will you be able to afford it. It's a question of, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, if you start saving now. So now let's look at 2030. What are people expecting the price of Bitcoin is going to be in 2030? Now, we are heading a little bit into speculation territory, but this is ARK Invest. They don't F around, and they have three certain Bitcoin targets. They have the bear case, the base case, and the bull case. And this is completely dependent on the penetration rate of Bitcoin on all these different things. So the corporate treasury, remittance rate, national treasury, emerging market currency, economic settlement network, seizure resistant asset, institutional investment, digital gold. And then it puts a percentage point on how much of that Bitcoin is penetrating, right? And it makes some assumptions. So on the bear case, which I think is extremely bearish, we have $258,000 Bitcoin. On the base case, we have $682,000 Bitcoin. On the bull case, you have $1.48 million Bitcoin. And I also want to pull up the power law, which I was talking about earlier in the very, very beginning of the show. And it's like this new model that recently came out. And you can kind of plug in, I'll explain what it is a little bit. So it says, what is the Bitcoin power law? Bitcoin relationship with the power law was discovered by Giovanni Stantosasi when he realized that Bitcoin's price moved in a straight line when it was plotted in a log graph. This is the only asset that behaves this way, indicating that there is something intrinsic about the nature of Bitcoin which allows it to predict its price into the future. Now, there's the, every model's right until it's not type of thing. And then it goes on to say, according to the power law model, Bitcoin's price is always oscillating around its fair price. We could say that when Bitcoin's price is below its fair price, then it is undervalued. When it is above, then it is overvalued. The bottom price indicates the price which Bitcoin will never go below. And then it goes on to say some math on how it's calculated. And then the last thing is the bottom price reliable? Yes, the model has been accurately predicting the Bitcoin bottom for many years now. It has only failed one time, March 13, 2020. The price fell below the bottom for only a few hours due to the pandemic black swan crash. You can be confident that the price will not go below the bottom unless there is an unexpected worldwide financial crisis. Okay, so now let's plug in the 2030 date and let's put in the year. Here we go. If I could do that, there it is. And let's put December 2030 and boom. According to Bitcoin's power law, remember it's an oscillator, right? So the bottom could be 220 and the fair price is roughly 500, 284. Now, if you go to the ARK Invest and they use a totally different methodology on how they came up with these numbers, they came roughly around the same, right? Bear case is around 250. Base case is roughly around 682. So 500 to 682, ballpark around the same. So let's say $500,000 Bitcoin for the sake of, today's episode to do the calculations, right? So how much Bitcoin would you need for 1.25 million by year 2030? You would need roughly, doing the math real quick, you need roughly 2.5 Bitcoin. So 2.5 Bitcoin to get yourself enough money to retire if you're spending roughly $50,000 a year. 2.5 Bitcoin currently would cost you around $152,000. So that's roughly a 10x. I think $500,000 Bitcoin by 2030 is an extremely conservative estimate. I think it's going to go a lot higher than that, in my personal opinion. But for the sake of this conversation, let's just leave it at that. Also, something to keep in mind with that the Yahoo article didn't take into account is that your runway keeps getting bigger, right? So if you're sitting on $1.25 million of cash for whatever reason, that purchasing power decreases over time. If you're sitting on if you're lucky enough to be sitting on $1.25 million worth of Bitcoin, your runway just keeps getting bigger. That purchasing power continues to increase over time. So it's a totally different type of conversation. And I always love to show this website, priced in Bitcoin 21. So in US dollar terms, it's about 89%. The dollar is about 89% cheaper. Oil is 91% cheaper. Gold is 91% cheaper. S&P 500 is 81% cheaper. A house, even with housing prices going through the roof, if you've been saving in Bitcoin, on a 1-year term, housing is 69% cheaper. On a 3-year term, it's 72% cheaper. And on a 5-year term, it's 85.3% cheaper, right? So on a Bitcoin standard, right, what Jeff Booth has always said, it allows you to actually experience the way that the world is supposed to be experienced, which is things are supposed to get progressively cheaper over time. It's supposed to be deflationary because of technology. Things get cheaper over time. They're supposed to. It's governments that are stepping in and artificially creating a situation where things are getting more expensive. Things aren't supposed to go that way. Highly recommend his book, Price of Tomorrow. Anyways, now this leads me to the last bit before I get Opti and Vendetta's thoughts. Love this calculator. I'm going to put it in the chat. You guys could play around with it. Shout out to our boy Jimbo that came up with this. But essentially, it allows you to plug in your stack. It allows you to plug in your desired income on a yearly basis. It allows you to plug in the inflation rate, and it allows you to plug in the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate. So let's experiment a little bit. Let's put in the inflation rate currently, which is roughly 3%. Let's put in the desired income, which is roughly 50,000, right? Let's be conservative, and let's plug in your stack. For the sake of this argument, let's say you have a 1 Bitcoin stack, right? And it also allows you to play around with the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate. So historically, it's appreciated roughly around 250%. Obviously, I don't think it's going to continue appreciating at that rate, but let's just say for the next 5-10 years, let's be ultra conservative. Once again, let's say that Bitcoin is going to appreciate on an annual cumulative basis 40%. I think it's going to be a lot more than that, but let's just say for the sake of this argument, let's be conservative, right? So your personal moon date, meaning you could be taking out 50K every year, and because Bitcoin is deflationary, roughly you wouldn't run out of money, right? It sounds fucking crazy saying that. But here's the math. Your stack is 1 Bitcoin. Your stack value is currently 63K. Your desired annual income of 50K. An annual USD depreciation rate of 3%. An annual Bitcoin appreciation rate of 40%. Your personal moon date, meaning the day that you'd be able to start taking money out, would be May 26th, 2027. Your Bitcoin stack will be worth roughly 246K by then. Your first daily withdrawal will be 0.000618 Bitcoin, which would be worth roughly $152. So you can kind of play around with this. Let's say you want a desired income of $100,000. Let's see what your personal moon date, if you work yourself up to 1 Bitcoin and you want to take out $100,000 a day, and the annual USD inflation rate is 3%, and the annual Bitcoin appreciation rate is 40%. Your personal moon date would be, I think this is September. I don't know. 28 August. Thanks, Opti. August 28th, 2029. It says your Bitcoin stack will be roughly worth 526,000. And you'll be able to take your first withdrawal of 0.000618 Bitcoin, which will be worth roughly $325. Now, I got to tell everyone, no one knows the exact price of Bitcoin, where it's going to be, where it's going to peak. But these types of tools allow you to financially plan for your future. And I think, when me and Opti started doing this show, I think one Bitcoin was, what was it, like 3,500?
I think the first time we did it was like maybe 28.
Yeah, there's 2,800 around there. So, one Bitcoin was a lot more affordable than it is now. But, I think 61,000 for, being able to retire by 2027, by 2030, right? Less than, 6 years away, I think I don't want to say it's completely doable for everyone, but I think it's definitely a goal to aspire to. So this is a really interesting type of calculator. I highly recommend checking it out. I recommend checking out also the Bitcoin power law calculator too. And you could kind of have fun with it a little bit. But my recommendation is for everybody is just stay humble, keep stacking sats. And I think that if you do that for 2 cycles, you're going to be very, very happy that you did. So enjoy those 2 kind of like calculation things. And there's a question. How much Bitcoin do you need to retire by 2030? I would say 1. So 1 Bitcoin. 1 Bitcoin, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. That's how much Bitcoin you need. But over time, I think you'll just need 1 Bitcoin when push comes to shove. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, I do have my take, but can you pull up that chart again and can we exaggerate some of these numbers a little bit? So let's do inflation rate at 15%, and let's do Bitcoin annual appreciation at 63%, which is what I got yesterday from Josh, the 10-year average returns on Bitcoin. 15 and 63. 63.
Okay. So the moon date would be
did that refresh? Basically the same day? It may be earlier. It's earlier, a year earlier.
June 29, 2028.
So a year earlier.
Yeah.
Let's go. Okay. So even with a higher inflation rate,
you could play around with this. Obviously, if you have 5 coins, you could already retire. If you have 2 coins, you could retire by 2 years from now. So you can just kind of play around with it. You could put 0.5 and it will just kind of give you different numbers by 2030. And of course you could put in the inflation rate. So you can make the inflation rate 30. If it goes fucking, hyperinflation here in the US, Bitcoin goes to the moon, you can put 100%, right? Stuff like that. So you can play around with this. Depending on your situation. I just use the 1 Bitcoin and 100,000, just to be a little bit more, kind of on the conservative end, right? And this, I believe that this is roughly the average salary in the US, about 50 to 60 grand. So yeah, have fun, guys. Kind of play around with it and apply it to your specific situation. Obviously, I don't know your specific situation, so I'm trying to generalize it as much as possible. So the answer to today's question is, how much Bitcoin do you need to retire by 2030? I would say roughly 2 to 3 Bitcoin if you want to spend, $50,000 to $100,000 a year, and you don't want to work for the rest of your life. I would say it's like a 2 to 3. Which, it's not that crazy, dude. It's not that nut. It's not that crazy. But if you guys are class of 2021, 2022, I would say instead of 2030, 2035, 2040. I think Bitcoin's going to go into the millions of dollars. And I think it's going to continue to increase in purchasing power over time. And I think your life will get progressively cheaper forever. Because the thing is absolutely scarce, because there's 21 million and it's infinity divided by 21 million. I think it's just a matter of time before all those assets that currently have a monetary premium, because people are seeking to maintain their purchasing power. I think people are going to wake up and say, wait a second. So I'm just sitting on this real estate that I have to pay capital gains tax and I have to pay property tax on. Why don't I just put this into Bitcoin? Put it in, hit up the Bitcoin way, learn how to take self-custody and, leave this stuff in cold storage and, forget about it. I think it's just a matter of time before people wake up to that fact, that reality. Bitcoin is the superior asset. Bitcoin is the best thing to store your wealth in if you don't want it to be debased, if you don't want it to be confiscated. Anyways, Vendetta, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Yeah, man, it's interesting you bring up this calculator because I've been playing around with one myself. I built one myself for the next 30 years, just based on a simple calculation. If you take an X amount today and do nothing with it, just leave that amount, how much would it be worth in the next 30 years, assuming Bitcoin, end of year return, and you set that return. So based on the last 14 years, if you look at historically, Bitcoin's been, up some crazy numbers on certain years, but I've taken the conservative route and I've chosen 60,000. Like if I were to put 60,000 at the beginning of this year, and for the next 10 years, Bitcoin would have a 35% end of year return, which I think is extremely bearish, but let's just keep it at that for now. After 10 years, without doing anything, your 60K would be worth around $1.6 million in purchasing power. If you wait it out after 20 years, that becomes 32 million, assuming a 35% return year after year, obviously. And if those numbers maintain themselves for the next 30 years, you're looking at excess of $650 million in purchasing power. And that's just with a 60K investment today. You do nothing with it except just buy for 60K and leave it. And if Bitcoin does a minimum of 35% every year, those are the numbers. So you can do your calculations based on that. You can be more bullish. You can put more money. And, but at the end of the day, I think based on Bitcoin's past performance, when nobody knew about it, they pale in comparison to what will happen when 8 billion people finally pay attention to this asset and realize, oh my gosh, this is life-changing. I need this. So the numbers, I don't think anybody's bullish enough because, you have 17 million Bitcoin left because of the 5 million that were lost, and you have 8 billion, hordes coming in eventually that are going to be living on this standard. So where it goes is infinite. It's an infinite. But if you want to play with numbers, just on a 60K investment at the beginning of this year with a 35% return for the next 30 years, you're going from 60K to over 650 million. So any young individual, like if you're in 20s, 30 years from now, you're in your 50s, you're in your prime, basically, middle-aged, you're retiring with some sick numbers based on like a peanut investment, in today's standards. And life does absolutely get cheaper on a Bitcoin standard, and you don't have to wait until the fiat system collapses to enjoy this and to see that happen. Take a simple example. Let's say you have $1,000 in your account and you have $1,000 in a Bitcoin wallet, and you go shopping, you buy something for $100. In that specific moment, both your bank account and your Bitcoin wallet will drop to 900. Except, let's say a few hours down the line or the next day, Bitcoin pumps. You maybe you have 1,100 in your Bitcoin wallet. So not only did you get whatever you bought for free, but now you have more spending money available to you for other stuff that you need. But your bank account is only headed one way, and that's down to zero because your 900 is not going anywhere, and it's being debased, at an accelerated pace, which is worth even less than that 900. So just do the math. It's just common sense. But in order to really appreciate this, you really have to do it. There's no, you can't take somebody's word, as, okay, that's how it is. Try it for yourself. And once you see it happen, you will never forget the first time that you look at your balance and you thought it was 1,000, but now it's like 1,003. And you're like, whoa, what just happened? Now I have more money. That's the Bitcoin power, because it's an appreciating asset. It's not one that loses value over time. It gains value.
100. And it's hard to like what Vendetta is saying. Like, it's hard to imagine that in a way. But what I would say is look back in time, right? When you have these very famous videos of Andreas giving a lecture about Bitcoin to an empty room, and it was $100. You have the very famous video of the guy recording himself. He's like, oh my God, Bitcoin broke $100. And this and that. If you go back to those years, I'm class of 2016. If you would have told me that Bitcoin was going to be at, 60,000 or 75 or whatever, 8 years later, I would have done everything. And I tried to, but I would have done more. right? So like, and it's very hard to imagine, like the first Bitcoin transaction, this guy paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 Papa John pizzas, right? Do you think he would have paid that if he knew that that was going to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars? No, it was inconceivable to imagine that at that point. Just like it's inconceivable to imagine, how much Bitcoin is going to be worth in the future. But what you can do, to add to Vendetta's point, is you can just use basic game theory and just look at the incentive structure. Like, look at Bitcoin, study Bitcoin, and you know this thing, like what Michael Saylor is saying, that this thing is destined to go up forever, Laura. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this? And we'll move on to culture.
Yeah, definitely. So I really like that math, and I really like V for Vendettas. Like, what a Friday with some real hopium and some bull tard sauce. Absolutely love it. I love those numbers. That was great. But I would kind of, and of course you guys can throw tomatoes all you want, but I think the goal for everyone in fiat terms is roughly now like 5 to 10 million. Like, I think that should be everyone's kind of like high point mark. I think that is like the quote unquote new millionaire meme. Like, a millionaire now, I think, is probably, to live the same kind of lifestyle, it's like 5 to 10 million. So whatever that means to you, and whatever you got to do to get to that number eventually on whatever long enough time frame, I think is kind of where your brain should be. But doubling down on this idea, and I think I say this all the time, because like, I just fundamentally don't really believe in retirement in the first part. Like, I believe in finding purpose and doing that forever. And a lot of us are young. We're probably in our, our 30s, maybe early 40s. And so the goal is, of course, you want to retire from your fiat job that you hate, is stacking Bitcoin and starting to build something. And then once you feel comfortable and you feel like you can, take a risk, maybe save up around like 2 years of your paycheck, then you start to divert your energy and your attention towards the things that you actually wanted to do. And that's probably what most people think when they think of the term retirement, because I'm convinced I'm going to be doing this probably for like the rest of my life. And I'm absolutely in love with what I'm doing. I love what we do. And I can only be so blessed to do this forever. So again, I have to do my caveat of I just don't fundamentally believe in retirement. But I guess maybe when I'm like 80 or whatever, I'll get tired. I'm like, all right, I just want to chill at the beach. I'll leave that open. But with that said, I can't see a time that I'm never going to save in Bitcoin. And even though we're getting kind of bullish, we are still kind of bearish in this regard, because it's going up forever. Infinity divided by 21 million. I don't even think our human brains can understand big numbers or where this is going. And while the power law is kind of alluring, all your models are broken, and it does seem kind of bearish. I'm not going to lie. The power law model seems kind of bearish in my opinion, but hey, I am bull-tarded AF. I'm constantly bullish on Bitcoin because, like V for Vendetta said, I don't think we truly understand what it means to have 8 billion people saving in Bitcoin. Obviously, it's got to scale and all that stuff. But if you look at total assets in fiat terms in the world, that is still excluding a lot of the human population. And once we all get onto one monetary network, I think even those numbers are going to go up. And as we get more productive moving forward, as our value doesn't get robbed, the world pie, the world value is going to increase in general. Anyways, that 2.5 number, Nico, that you pointed out sounds really good for everyone out there. Like, I think that's a decent number for most people to try to get to. And it kind of really connects to the classic meme of trying to get to 2.1 Bitcoin, or AKA, 1/10 millionth of the total Bitcoin supply, which if you kind of do similar math in gold, I think it's around like 800,000. I haven't updated my maths lately. But again, it's going up forever. 32 sats is generational wealth. And I'm convinced that any meaningful amount of Bitcoin that you own today and you hold into the future will be life-changing money. So again, I know when we talk about these numbers and new entrants come into the space, they might get dissuaded, or they might feel bad about their holdings. But I'm convinced if you hold anything that you own today into the future, it's going to be life-changing wealth. And like we constantly bring up on this show, your life gets cheaper on Bitcoin. I felt it in the 7 years that I've been in Bitcoin. You know, V for Vendetta brought it up. Nico talks about it constantly. Everyone in the chat has felt this. And you can only really understand this once you've experienced what Bitcoin can do for your life. And so again, just hodl what you can, continue to stack as much as possible. If you're like me and you can't hold on to your dollars because it's burning a hole in your pocket, capitulate your fiat as quickly as it comes in. Make sure you pay your bills and rent, but you should be stacking as much as humanly possible. Or if you're like some of my friends out there and you like to time the markets, then, you know, hold on to some dry powder for the dips. But infinity divided by 21 million, it's going up forever. You want to continue to stack Bitcoin for the rest of your time on Earth. It's kind of the idea of like, if there was only one money and it was dollars, are you ever not going to save in dollars? It's like, no, most people save in dollars, even if they have little bit amount of money. It's like, we're always going to be saving in Bitcoin. So I really think that all you got to do is live below your means and your life will improve. It's so simple.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor before we get onto the culture segment. I want to give a shout out to the Orange Pill app. Find local Bitcoiners, events, and merchants. Join the 10,137 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. They are the Bitcoin social layer. If you move to a new city, they have a cool little geographic feature. We'll show you the Bitcoiners that are around you. It also have a clever filtration system so that you'll only find Bitcoiners and like-minded individuals on the app. It's a great way to reach me and Opti directly. We take the time to answer every single one of you guys. So you download the Orange Pill app today. If you want to connect with Bitcoiners, build up that Bitcoin Rolodex. Bitcoiners are going to be some of the most powerful, influential people in the next 5 to 10 years. So download the Orange Pill app today, the Bitcoin social layer. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, KABOOMRACKS, the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. They currently have a deal that is live. It's called Instant Hosting. They're offering the S19K Pro for 120 terahashes. There's a one-time payment of $2,466 plus $160 per month for hosting. Your hash rate goes online after your payment is confirmed. You own the miner. This is not a hash rate contract. Your equipment is already online and has been running, so it has a very low chance of DOA. The price includes a 3-month security deposit, and first month, the hosting price is as low as 0.079 cents kilowatt hour. So if you guys want to start mining Bitcoin right now, instant hosting, you could do it with KABOOMRACKS. You could scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. This is a special deal for the Bitmain Antminer S19K Pro, 20 terahashes, instant hosting. Opti, it's all yours, my friend.
Let's go. All right. So I want to tee up B for Vendetta on something, because last time you came on, everyone's like, this guy gets it. I don't think triggering is the right word, but I want to get you on a rant before we talk about, you just told us before the show, you just released 3 new products. But before we get that, you did this tweet the other day. Oh, wait, this one's the wrong one. Sorry, this one. And I find this very interesting. Because, I mean, we've been seeing what's happening with self-custody. We're seeing the attacks. So I want to get to that before we get to what you're working on. But this is such an interesting topic to me as well. And it got kind of a good feedback on Twitter. It's just like, how many of you truly understood what money is and it's working before discovering Bitcoin? And I find that it's very low. Few people understand what is money. And that's what we try to expand on this show, is to get people to ask very simple questions. What is money? And why are we forced to use a money that steals from us? So, V for Vendetta, the floor is yours. Maybe you can elaborate on what is money, what caused this tweet, and then maybe we can touch on a little bit of all the crazy stuff we've seen in the last 2 weeks and your take on it.
Yeah, man. Before Bitcoin, I was like, a lot of people had no idea what money was. I was just working like a hamster, trying to build businesses. I've built 3 successful businesses, before the Bitcoin way. And, I was essentially, not many people know this, but I was essentially retired, in my early 40s. I thought life was finished. I was good. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and your entire life is rug pulled from right underneath you. And you wake up and find out you're homeless over a cup of coffee. And you realize, like, what the hell just happened? And that's when you start digging deep and you realize that you don't understand anything about money, that the money that you think, was like your key to happiness and wealth doesn't belong to you. It belongs to somebody else who believes they have the right to dictate what you do with it and how you do with it, and if they're going to give it back to you. And so, once that clicks, once you experience something like this, you never want to put yourself back in a predicament for that to happen again. And, thankfully, the research, led me to Bitcoin. I started studying it. And obviously, in the moment, I had my doubts as well, trying to debunk, trying to blow up the whole, premise of Bitcoin to see how I'm going to make it fail. And, over time, I failed into doing that. And I, started watching and following and reading, other people's work, smarter people's work, and who also failed. And, 1 + 1, fast forward 15 years, here we are. The thing is stronger than ever, decentralized more than ever. And it just highlights how everything you thought about the world is a complete lie. Like the judicial system is complete rubbish. The last 4 or 5 years, the medical system, it's all bought for, it's all rubbish. Nothing is real. Everything is bought for. And depending on whose side you're on, you either move forward or you get kicked to the curb. And that's not right. And all of these problems around the world, like whether it's the wars, whether it's the crimes, whether it's all of these problems. I mean, if you look at them, the governments like to talk about, this whole premise of national security and terrorism and money laundering and all that stuff. But if you look around the world, like who's causing all of this stuff? Like who's funding wars? Is it you? Is it the laundromat owner? Is it the gas station owner? Who's money printing to oblivion to finance other countries that we have no business, in supporting? Who's financing all this? Who's the real threat to national security? Like you have to ask these questions. And fundamentally, when you dive into these details and you go down that rabbit hole, you realize that all of this nonsense is tied to one root, and that's the money printer. So broken money, I don't think the word broken is a strong enough description for what it is. This is like the worst of the worst. The lowest common denominator of a human filth is the fiat money. That must go, because that is what's fueling all of the problems that we're encountering. All the hate, the division, all the stress people are going through, people thinking they have to work harder in order to make more money. That's not true. You're trying to swim against a tide that's rigged against you. How's that going to work? It's mathematically impossible. So you need to take a step back, sit down, try to reason, try to listen, try to learn, try to do the work, and understand that now, for the first time in the history of Earth, there is an option, thankfully, and it's called Bitcoin. But because we've never seen it before, it's very hard for people to wrap their brains around it and to understand that this is something you need to learn. It's not something that's going to fall on your lap and all of a sudden you're going to feel at home as if you've been doing it your whole life. It's not. It's something you need to take the time and learn. It's not that hard. And once you understand the mechanics of it, and this is what we do at the Bitcoin Way, we do all the hard work for you. Like we handhold you through the entire process, leaving you with the simple task of just using your Bitcoin, sending and receiving. And there's many resources, other than us out there doing the work as well. But, it takes a conscientious effort on every individual to want to listen. If you're going to ignore it and dismiss it and try to find any lazy excuse, not to do the work, then at some point you're going to come smashing into a wall, just like I did when I realized that my entire life was a lie. So you either do the work and, try to save yourself, or do nothing, hope I'm wrong. And when your life blows up, which it will, because the mechanics of fiat currency are falling apart globally. It's a mathematical certainty. Just look at the news around you. When that day comes, then ask yourself, what am I going to do now? Okay. So that's really the predicament. And trying to orange pill people, we stopped doing that in the traditional sense. There's no sense trying to cram 50,000 hours of research, that I've done in a conversation I've met with someone for 5 minutes. It's just not going to work. It's the better approach is just see where they're at, see what their problem is, and ask them, well, why do you think that is, or how about you try this for a change and see how that works out, and eventually, if you hit them on things that they can relate to, at some point, something is going to resonate, and hopefully you get the call back and you get the right questions and you get them to sit down, and you do it with baby steps. Like, we don't cram self-custody from A to Z in one go. We break it up into, bite-sized pieces. We explain it. We translate complex terms into something like a 10-year-old is going to understand. But we make sure that you finally grasp the concept that you cannot leave your money in the custody of someone else, especially someone that hates you and who has designed a system that is created to steal from you. This is the fundamental underlying fact that everybody must understand, that the fiat system is a system created to steal. Okay, it's created to enslave, it's created to control, it's created to demean you. So if you're not part of the club that prints that garbage, you are the peasant that's worth nothing. That's the mindset behind the system that created the fiat legacy system. And that system must go if you want to have a chance at a better life, at a free life, especially if you have kids. You don't want them to live in a world, whose rules are dictated by someone that doesn't have their best interest at heart. You absolutely do not want that. It's your responsibility as a parent to, take the steps to ensure that they're okay, because one day they're going to realize what happened, and then, what kind of name do you want to leave behind? You have to think about all these things. So Bitcoin opens up like a whole can of questions beyond just the money. It's spiritual, it's economic, it's moral, it's a whole bunch of things. But ultimately, when you strip the power of money from any one individual and you give it, you leave it as a trustless, permissionless system that no one can control, it forces humanity to do more good than bad, because you can't afford to make stupid mistakes anymore, because once the money is gone, no one's going to give it back to you. That's what Bitcoin, that's how Bitcoin is going to upgrade the world into, a new renaissance.
Let's go. Love it, V for Vendetta.
That sounds like the Bitcoin way.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
Love
absolutely the Bitcoin way. This is our mission, to fast track everybody into proper self-custody.
Love it.
And here's another thing. Forget all the conveniences. You must do the work.
Yes.
There's no such thing as taking a shortcut, when owning your money. You either learn to do it yourself or you're taking an unnecessary risk. It's as simple as that.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Okay, let's talk about the Bitcoin way, the features that you have been providing for your customers, and then the new features that you just announced recently before the show. And one more thing, though. I really like the meme that you said a few times on the show, that the Bitcoin way is basically like Apple Care IT team for your self-custody. You can do self-custody alone, but if you are scared or you want someone to hold your hand, get in touch with the Bitcoin way. They're like the Apple Care for your computers out there. And I absolutely love that meme. So, V, what features or services do you offer? And then let's get into the new features that you just announced.
Sure. I mean, we bring in 25 years of cybersecurity, encryption, and privacy into Bitcoin self-custody. Okay, so we handhold everybody from point zero to point fully self-sovereign in learning how to, hold properly custody their own coins. We filter out the good and the bad from hardware and software. We put it all together. We configure everything. We never touch your coins. We never sign any transactions. We don't hold any keys, any backup keys. We don't do any of that stuff. We teach you how to fish. We don't provide you the meal. We show you how to become the best fisherman out there, that you can take care of yourself from now to the end of eternity, and you can pass that knowledge on to your family, your loved ones, and so forth. So the onboarding stage gets people into that, running a node, having your air-gapped wallet, properly securing your digital data. And then once that's in place, we can easily scale into some of the more advanced stuff, excuse me, like multi-sig, like learning how to integrate Bitcoin payments into your business, inheritance planning, et cetera, et cetera. And recently, we've expanded these services because, I mean, being sovereign is not just about specifically about Bitcoin. We've zoomed out a little bit in order to protect your online presence, because that's we're living in a world of increased mass surveillance, increased censorship, increasing government overreach, and no one has a clue how to start protecting themselves. And so we've streamlined a project that brings a lot of the best tools together. We configure them, we set them up on one streamlined platform that combines the fastest, the most anonymous VPNs out there. With like access to over 650 VPNs globally, you can literally be in any jurisdiction at a click of a button instantly. We've integrated, mesh VPNs into this, where it gives you access to your networks from anywhere around the world. Everything is end-to-end encrypted, no matter where you are, whether you're home, whether you step out into the street and shift from Wi-Fi to mobile data. In the back end, all of these algorithms are in play. We've incorporated modern firewall and DNS systems, AI-powered for real-time threat detection, extremely powerful stuff. Fully customizable, blocks, with all the regular blocking ads, trackers, all of that stuff, parental controls, all of that, all in one easy to use platform that anybody can have. And it's always active no matter where you are. So that's one. We dubbed it Casper, like essentially turning you into as close as a ghost as possible. So Casper is the friendly ghost, since we're making everything simplified for you. The other one we've coined for your eyes only, because most people use cloud-based services, but they have no idea that once you put the data on the cloud, it's not yours. Anybody there can access these things at any point in time and do whatever they want with it. So what we've done is that we've devised a way where we can encrypt all this data before you put it on the cloud, so that your day-to-day activity doesn't change. So there's nothing really for you to learn, except we set the infrastructure on the cloud service that you're using, so that when you're dragging and dropping your files into whatever cloud that you're using, it's all encrypted. And so if Google decided one day to go rogue and see what Mr. X is doing, they can't. If Apple decides to do the same, they can't. You control the keys, you hold the power, it's your data, you're the captain of that ship. And the last thing we did, based on heavy demand, it's not something we were planning on doing, but because it fits into the realm of sovereignty, we have a program now to help people relocate to Central America. So for those that are wondering, where can I go? I'm not happy where I'm living. What are my options? But I don't necessarily want to spend $1 million, buying real estate, or $500,000 to buy a passport. Are there options available for me? And yes, there are. We spent 6 to 7 months researching all of this, and we have a fully streamlined plan for this, where somebody that's interested in this, we send them all the information. If they're interested, they sign up. We handle all the logistics with our team of lawyers. Once it's ready, we notify you. You fly down, you sign a few papers, done. So we are expanding on the services that relate to sovereignty. So whether it's your Bitcoin, whether it's you personally, where you want to live in somewhere where you don't have to worry, you can live peacefully, you can live in somewhere that you're treated best, essentially, somewhere that respects you as a human being and is not consistently trying to destroy your life in any way, shape they possibly can.
Love it. Great. Oops. Absolutely awesome. Okay. It is Friday, V, so we're going to get, Nico's really going to get torched if we don't go to the meme review. So what's the last message you want to leave with the audience? It could be about Bitcoin Way, it could be about Bitcoin, it could be about life. What's the last message you want to leave with the audience?
Live your life with dignity, man. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. Be your own boss, the captain of your own ship. You owe it to yourself, to uphold, the efforts of all of our ancestors before us, that fought and died to give us, the life that we have now. And it's not going to be us that are going to let all that go to waste, to make a 1% bunch of psychopaths happy. It's up to us to regain controls of our lives, to regain control of this world that we live in, and make sure that it's headed in the right direction. It's up to each and every one of us. Everybody's valuable. Everybody has a role to play.
Absolutely, man.
Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely, guys. Go check out the Bitcoin Way. They're a sponsor of Simply Bitcoin for Simply Bitcoin Originals. We've loved working with them, and we can't recommend them enough. They are your Bitcoin IT team. They'll literally walk you through anything that you anything that you want to do on Bitcoin, whether it's taking self-custody, setting up your node, like Vendetta was talking about. So go to bitcoinway.com today and go check them out. Can't recommend them enough. All right, everybody, let's get to Opti's Friday meme review. Let's check it out.
Opti's Friday meme review. I'm never not amazed by how sultry my voice is on that. I know you guys want selfie, but man, I killed that one. I got such a good voice. Not a good face for TV, but a good voice for radio. Anyways, you already know the deal. It's Friday. We made it to Friday, guys. So this is the meme review where you guys tag me on Twitter or drop them in our Telegram group, but tag me in Telegram too so I can see your memes. That makes it easier on me because there's a lot of messages in there. But also go join us in the Telegram. What's it? t.me/simplybitcoin. All hanging out, good conversation. Shouts out to the Darth mod in there. But you already know the deal, guys. We are frontline soldiers in this information war. And tweets are the bullets, memes are the artillery. It is upon us, the people that get what's going on in Bitcoin, to continue to ridicule the corporate press and the politicians and the bankers, continue to get the calls of actions out there, and make sure your friends and family's heads stay in the game. Make sure people understand why we do what we do. And memes are incredibly powerful. Online is where the propaganda happens. So put your hat in the ring and make some propaganda. Make sure you make some memes. Memes are extremely powerful. Everything is memes. Life is memes. So make sure you make some memes. Even if you don't know how to make memes, make some memes. And on that note, shouts out to Boomer, a.k.a. The Ruler's Broken. He put his hat in the ring. And actually, bro, Boomer, you got 2 on here today. So you did a great job last week. He's been tagging me. He's like, how are these memes? Do I know how to meme? Yes, you're doing well. And you're getting good feedback on Twitter. So guys, you don't have to be a super shadowy memer. Just make some memes. Okay, so the first one, Boomer goes, so at Opti, how does this one measure up? Rate my meme, please. And you got some good feedback here. And okay, so it's a picture of a girl, and she's doing her makeup in a police battle shield. I forget what they're called. So she's in the reflection doing her makeup, just like unfazed by what's going on at these protests. And it goes, how it feels to sack sats during the Then They Fight You stage. I totally agree. This is the feeling. This is the vibe. And the next one by Boomer, aka at Ruler's Broken. He goes, when an army talks to James Lavish after or about sports ball. And again, Opti meme score. And here we got James Lavish at the barbecue,
That's
cooking the
crazy.
steaks. It's a play on the normie cooking the steaks and going, have you heard? No, that's crazy. Have you heard about the game? But there's James Lavish. Man, that's crazy. Catch the yield curve inversion last night. Absolutely insane. Then maybe this one should be updated about what's going on in Japan, but hey, no one cares apparently because all they care about is sports ball. Okay, the next one is by my boy RDBTC, and this is all any man ever wants. And he goes, there is no second best. And here's a guy, he's hugging his girlfriend, his waifu, and there's Bitcoin, and it goes 1 Bitcoin, December 2028, $1 million, and then 2, there is no second best. There is Bitcoin, and then there is shitcoins, guys. Get this through your head. There is no second best. Okay, this next one. Shouts out to Level 39, and this is a play on the OSU speech where he got booed talking about Bitcoin, and it's also a classic meme template of, Marty McFly playing the guitar in Back to the Future, and we got the guy, and he's looking at the guitar, and it's got the Bitcoin logo on it, and he's like, what is this? And then we got the guy's head from the speech, and he goes, I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are going to love it. Yes, this is true. Their kids will look back at that speech and literally have shame at their parents because they booed you for Bitcoin. Oh, man. God, can't wait for that time. All right, the next one is my boy Outropium. And he just got the blowing puff emoji here 3 times. And it goes, them. How hard are you stacking sats? And it goes, me. And it's a picture of a steak on his phone with just a little bit of rice. We have updated the we're only eating ramen meme to you are holographically eating making steaks and only eating rice. This is the AI future. This is the metaverse that they want for you guys, but we're doing it in reverse and stacking Bitcoin. Okay, this next one, shout out to Mandrake, and he goes, how I see Bitcoin performing over the remainder of 2024 MS Paint edition. And you can see he's got this very, very great chart here that is hand drawn on MS Paint, and this is what's probably going to happen for the next couple of months. This is potentially what might happen over summer, and we got the dollar price here on the y-axis, and we have time here on the x-axis, and it's just going to crab market. It's going to crab market for some amount of time, and then it's going to go absolutely nuclear. I fully endorse you guys joining Mandrake's trading group, a Telegram. He'll give you these signals for a simple charge of 1 cent. I'm trolling. It doesn't have a trading group, guys. All right. And on that note, shouts out to the BTC therapist. And he goes, you wake up and Bitcoin is at 500K. What do you do next? And here's the classic elongated phone with a Omega God candle that we will one day wake up to. I can't. We can't wait for that day, Nico. We can't wait for the Omega candle. All right, you already know the deal. Drop your meme review score in the chat as we cover ours live, and we will review it live. So on that note, we'll give us our meme review score, and I'm going to go first. I'm going to give it my passport because we're going to Canada. It's my American passport because I'm an American. So my passport. I'm going to Canada.
Okay, that's a good score. Vendetta, what would you give those memes?
Well, I never know how to score these things, man. So I'm gonna go old school. Give it like a 9.
All right, classic. I'll take it. I'll take a 9. I'll take a 9.
I'm gonna give it this Lucio Paletti keychain, Guy Fawkes, made of metal.
Oh wow, yeah. Now that's solid. That is solid.
All right, so it literally made of metal. ASMR. Yeah, that's my score.
Love it.
Yeah, and while the chats are coming in, JH, we're going to Bitcoin Canadian conference in Montreal.
The Canadian Bitcoin conference.
Yeah, so we're heading out there, I believe Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So some meme review scores have came in. And I'm just going to preface this, Nico. I'm sure you're going to have to strap in today. So prepare yourself.
All right. First one by Rich BC 10. The number of mics Opti ordered yesterday after work.
Let's go. Hashtag free Opti.
BTC
Hashtag
is
Optigate.
Truth. Bitcoin is for anybody. All right, next one. Phil C. I give the memes Ohio State University students a year from now making TikTok videos crying into their phones.
Yes.
All right,
yes.
next one.
UTXO, I can't say that one. Sorry, dude. I'm censoring you today.
Okay, next one. This knock meme score. We will live below our memes to retire, but not below our memes. Let Opti meme. Woof. Phil Russo, Opti going there. Elaine, rules for thee, the age-old story. Up on top, they hold the glory. Bitcoin's buzzsaw will chop them down at the knees, metaphorically. Still, it's not your Bitcoin without your keys. Oof. Sovereign state of Japan, where's my 100 billion stimmy? Opti goes to Canada and marries the Canadian Treasury Secretary, age 69. Confirmed.
All right. UTXO updated his meme score too.
We all Opti. All right.
Let's go.
And on Rumble, we got a meme score. Idle threat. Meme score. Metaphorically throwing a brick outside the Overton window. Oh my God. And of course, we don't run out of memes.
No. We got one more. Don Billy goes meme score. Win Moon. Win Lambo. Classic.
Now the buzzer. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. I'm your host, Nico, is my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, hashtag free Opti. And this is our
hashtag Optigate 2024, never forget.
And this is our very special guest. If you guys knew, you would understand. And this is our very special guest, V for Vendetta from The Bitcoin Way. Go to thebitcoinway.com today. They are your personal Bitcoin IT team. They'll help you with anything related to Bitcoin. So Vendetta, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's always good to be here.
Appreciate it.
Love it. Wait, Nico, before you kick me off, guys, Go outside, touch some grass, get some exercise, eat some good food. Make sure you are mentally and physically and spiritually fit. We have a war upon us. Make sure you are a tip-top, best condition you can possibly be. This is how we win the hearts and minds of the masses. All right.
Absolutely.
Guys.
Absolutely.
And take self-custody. All right, guys. Love you all. If you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. But the number one thing you could do to help push the peaceful Bitcoin revolution is really take self-custody. Share Bitcoin media. Share Bitcoin art. Share Bitcoin culture. This is how we win. Love you all. Have an amazing weekend. We'll be back Monday for another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. And next week is the Canadian Bitcoin Conference, which we will be live streaming from the Simply Bitcoin channel. So, guys, take care. See you guys later.
This episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.